It's been 20 years since the release of the You Can't Imagine How Much Fun We're Having album. And I gotta say, speaking for myself, in the last 20 years, I haven't really revisited the album that often, other than to kind of reference certain songs for when we're gonna perform them live, so I can make sure I get the lyrics, or just kind of wrap my head around how I'm gonna perform it, or to check the test pressings. When the test pressings show up, when Alex is like, "Hey, I got test pressings because we're doing a reissue for that," that's when I go and I listen to the album, because I have to listen to the test pressing. And I like it. I like this album. I was fond of it when we made it, and I never lost that feeling. I always stayed fond of it. However, in recent times, I'm realizing that the albums that I'm more fond of are the ones that Anthony likes. So when I hear him talk positively about the catalog, it will change how I feel about the catalog. So I'm just kind of a follower.
They're all amazing.
What about you? How do you feel about it?
The same as Slug, as usual. I revisit it when it's test pressing time, because we're always reselling the shit. And I also check it out for when we do references. But the truth of the matter, I play it once a year probably, like most of my records, because I don't know, I'm really proud of a lot of the stuff I do, and then some stuff I don't, that I'm not proud of, I want to figure out how to like. And then You Can't Imagine record was profound for me at the time, because I see my what I was trying to prove something. Like, I could see it plain as day now. At the time, I knew what I was doing, but now I look at it as different. I look at it as, oh, that's what I look like when I'm defensive. Because at the time, people were like saying I make very soft, sensitive music, because I am a soft, sensitive person. And so I was defensive at the time about that fact. And I made a very hardcore record, to me.
For the record, I think it's important that we get this out of the way once and for all. The people that critiqued you for making soft, sensitive music obviously were really critiquing you for working with me, because I was definitely exploring a lot of more sensitive and thoughtful and just kind of just my insides, right? And then the people, simultaneously, the people that would actually accuse me of making great music, it's because of him.
Well, see, I'm so self-centered that I could have swore they were talking about how bad I was. So go figure. Perfect match. No, I don't. They're all pretty good to me. I think the only thing I wish I would have done a little better was Little Man, because it's such an amazing song. It's one of the best written songs, in my opinion. Like, it's one of the top written rap songs, in my opinion, of all time. And fuck, I hear the drums different now, and I wish I would have just I could have made it so much better. But it's a very small part of me that thinks. Otherwise, the rest of the record's perfect.
What about with you on the songwriting side of it? Is there anything that maybe wasn't your favorite that now you look back, maybe even while rehearsing for this, that you're like, these verses on this shit is so tight now?
Actually, yes, there's a song on here that I kind of have avoided for 20 years, that after having had to perform it on this tour that we're on right now, has really grown on me lyrically, and that's Get Fly. Like,
great.
I was not really a huge fan of Get Fly. I still don't love the second verse, but that's another story. Actually, let's address that.
Yeah.
My problem with this album is not so much that I wasn't being defensive when I wrote this. I was following what Anthony was doing. I was following the music he was putting in front of me. And it's kind of the beginning of me learning how to write to music, because prior to that, I used to just show up with verses. This was the first album where I was like, okay, this beat deserves to be a song like Panic Attack. And this beat deserves to be a song like, it was the first time where I was letting the music start to dictate what I was doing. And my main regret from this project is all the first verses are great, and then somewhere in the second verse I start to kind of unravel. I had not yet really figured out how to flush it out, and you can hear me doing it on this album. I'm learning how to flush out the second or the third verse to be more cohesive. Prior to this album, I was horrible at it, but this album was really important for me because it was kind of training me for where we were going to end up, which would be the Lemons and the Family Sign and everywhere after. I had gotten much better at fleshing out the full idea. I mean, I'm still working on it. I'm going to be honest. I'm still figuring it out. But on this album, it's like if you listen to the first verse of Panic Attack, it's tight. By the second verse, it's not so tight anymore. First verse of That Night, it's really well written. By the second verse, it starts to get a little bit loose. It starts to loosen up, and so I think I was just really excited to be in the moment. And so, quality control has never really been my middle name.
Yeah, me too.
I'm more of a productive type of artist. I don't overanalyze the flaws and try to fix them all, as much as I look at the big picture. And also, I love to produce, I love to create, I love to make as much stuff as possible. And so I was never big on spending a month on a song, you know, and that's maybe a flaw, but also it's who I am, and I love the fact that I could be myself all the time with my art. But you can really hear me struggling with that on this album, and I love that part because to capture that to me is more important than having, especially looking back. I could look back and be like, oh, we made this really great album, but instead I get this snapshot of who I was as an artist with even the flaws, and we capture that on this album, and that's really special to me. Yeah. I'm gonna try to answer this next piece as best as possible because my memory is a little foggy with certain things, but if my memory serves me correct, the title of this album, we had that title before we really fully had the album realized. I think that I had mentioned it as a title, and Ant laughed and thought it was hilarious, and we kind of ran with that.
Sounds about right.
And oftentimes our titles don't got nothing to do with the actual songs, just like sometimes our song titles don't got nothing to do with the actual songs, you know what I'm saying? I like the concept of seeing a title and having that leave a mark, even with you having no idea who this band is. You pick up the CD, and you look at the art, and I don't want you to know what this is gonna sound like. I want you to be like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? And then you look at the title, I don't want that to explain what this is gonna sound like. I want that to also be its own, I want all these things to have their own lives and not be so dependent on each other, you know? And so that title, I think we just were like, wow, that's hilarious. It was like ridiculous. And we stuck with it. And that's kind of how I've always kind of tried to treat titles for the most part, is to not worry so much about what does this mean, and more be like, what is this going to mean to you? Like, what do you think this means? The artwork for You Can't Imagine How Much Fun We're Having was photos by Dan Monick, curated by Dan Monick. And it was, all that was done after the album was complete. The album was finished and sent to get mastered and pressed and all that. And that's when we started pulling the artwork together. Dan pulled it together conceptually, and I just kind of helped by being the model, but also helping, I guess, facilitate, you know, the space where we were shooting. The whole campaign, actually, because we shot a lot for that campaign. The album artwork was shot in our old practice space, but for the campaign we shot in random spaces in Los Angeles and Minneapolis, and all of it was tied into the artwork. It was that same character that you see on the cover in all of these different spaces, not having fun, if you will. You know, kind of showing you not just the mundane, but almost like dangerously lonely. And that was kind of the concept for the art, you know. But Dan Monick had a huge part in helping pull it together. He also hired a homie of his to help actually design it and put it together. and I can't remember that dude's name off the top of my head, but right now somebody from the label could splash his name at the bottom of the screen. Ching, ching. The first song was Arrival, the first song we made for this?
Mm-hmm.
Hold up.
It might have been something like, it might have been Arrival and, or maybe.
I'm running through them. It was probably either Arrival or Smart Went Crazy, because we knew we wanted the next album to be loud.
Yeah.
And so we started going into that direction. And I'm going to suggest it was probably Arrival or Smart Went Crazy, or maybe even Watch Out or something of that nature, you know. And there were songs that ended up being recorded in the process of this that didn't get used for this album. That was always the thing with us back then, is we would create a lot of songs, record them all, and then decide what goes on the album and what doesn't. What makes this sound like a completed piece? Is it missing anything? Okay, well, we have these other things here that we could use to try to change that or take something out and add something to it, or what have you. And this one had a handful of those types of songs, and most of them made it out in random spaces, you know, either it got licensed somewhere or B-sides. I think Merce put one in a movie he made, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
a few random things.
Yeah, there's random floaters out there that were part of these sessions, but they just didn't help communicate what this was supposed to communicate. They either were redundant because we already had that feeling, or they just threw it way off, you know, and made it weird. You know what I mean? So this album was curated and is what it's supposed to be, what it's meant to be. And I think that might be the first time we really approached it with that kind of mind state, making an album, because prior to that, Seven's Travels was like a collection of stuff, and God Loves Ugly was kind of like the precursor to that collection of stuff, because we made the God Loves Ugly stuff, and anything that didn't get on God Loves Ugly just got pushed to Seven's Travels. You know? Overcast, I guess, was very intentional.
Yeah, but we had made a lot of things before Overcast came out. But yeah, it had an intention. Only the ones I haven't heard in a long time, because I just have a fondness for a couple of the things that we made at the time. It was something about graffiti or something, running around. And, I don't know. You remember how the beat switched? Yeah. I haven't heard it forever because it's only a 4-track.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh, that was the shit. And you go back to it. It's like, oh man.
I feel like somebody used that sample. I think Ghostface did.
Yeah, somebody.
And that's why we ended up.
Okay,
that's part of the reason we cut it was because he had a song that just came out. Like we made ours, and before we could finish the album, his joint dropped, and it had the same sample. So we were just like, oh. The funny thing about You Can't Imagine is it's got the most samples that other people have used in a weird way. Because after You Can't Imagine came out, then I heard a Cameron or a Dipset song that used Little Man.
Yeah.
And I used, or I heard Fat Joe use the Arrival. You know what I'm saying? Like I heard people using the same samples, and so that's an interesting part of that album in a weird way.
Because I think I was going to the well that I never go to before because I was trying to prove something.
Sure. Yeah.
And that makes some of the sense to me.
Yeah.
And I would end up sticking in that way for certain other things, but never quite with Atmosphere. I've always intentionally gone opposite of where I'm supposed to. Like it's just been a thing I do with Atmosphere.
We got to play on Conan, and we got to do Say Hey There on that. And then on Kimmel, we did Say Hey There and Pour Me Another. In hindsight, being 2020, I wish we'd have played Little Man. But at the time, not us nor the label necessarily considered that to be a single or a focus track. And that's the crazy thing, is you just don't really know. Like if you don't have the resources to force people to like your music, then you don't really know what people are gonna like. You have no way to. It's just a game, you know. You know what you like, but you don't know what's gonna stick.
It never works that way.
Yeah. And so I wish we'd have played Little Man, but honestly, Say Hey There and
worked
Pour Me
fine.
Another were great. You know, those are great songs. I always forget about Pour Me Another. To me, that's probably one of my more well-written joints, specifically from back then. You know what I mean?
Well, it was definitely one of the first ones. I remember specifically when it was after it was done. I remember playing it for Sadiq in my car, and I remember even skipping to the hook. I was just like, oh yeah, it's good, yeah, blah 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 blah. Fast forward. I was like, check it out, it's tight. You know, I was big on this song right away.
And when he says skipping, he means fast forwarding.
Yeah.
Because shit was tape back then.
Yeah.
We weren't burning. We had CD burners, you know, around, but it wasn't laptops for us yet. You know what I'm saying? We weren't burning shit yet like that.
And like I've always said, I never have to question the verses, and Sadiq doesn't have to hear the verse to know. I was like, here, this is why it's great. I'm gonna get to the emotion of the hook and the music. That's what that was.
This album is it is one of my favorites, but it's also got some of my more weirder missteps. Watch Out is a weird one to me. Musical Chairs is kind of a weird one to me. Bam is a weird one to me, but they were still necessary in order to present what was supposed to be presented with this record. Like, and honestly, on them particular songs, I'm kind of just another instrument, right? Like, it's like I'm just supposed to make sure my voice sounds like this on there, because the real presentation is this ode to this boom bap bloodline that we both, you know, grew up in. And so I have to remind myself, though, when I hear those songs or when I perform them, that I'm not a lyrical miracle here. I'm not trying to be that. I am just trying to present the sound of the voice that is supposed to be on those songs. You know what I'm saying? And that was huge to me, learning how to do that and accept that and be, you know, not always the focus, but also sometimes just being the flute. You know what I'm saying? Like, this album really impacted me in a lot of ways that I think made me a better artist in the later years. You know, some people might disagree with that, but those people are morons.
What about you,
Moron.
Ant?
It's my favorite word.
That's why I said it.
Yeah.
Just trying to make you laugh, man. For real.
What about you, Ant? Any final thoughts on this album you'd like to
Any
share?
final thoughts? For me, there's two very significant things for me on this, and maybe that's why I always refer to it a lot and when I talk about it. Is because it came after Seven's travels, right at the beginning of maybe I could make a living at this, and then trying to prove myself, like I said earlier, just trying to prove myself in a certain way, and the idea that I'm gonna always try to at least try to enhance the sound. So knowing that I'm gonna make this Bomb Squad thing, and I know in my mind the next thing is gonna be total opposite, most likely synthesizer. I knew it at the time. So I always knew, like, it's always like that. So that's one thing. So artistically in that level. And then that album changed my entire life because I started going on tour with Slug. And once I started doing that, it's been 20 years now. And he told me at the time, he was like, if you come out, you know, it'll probably change your life. And he didn't say good or bad. But it's been mostly good, obviously. I can't even begin to tell you the wonderful things, the profound things that have changed because of touring the last 20 years. So I'm glad we're celebrating it, and I'm glad we're making a big deal about it personally because of that timeline for me.